What's up, brand builders? Stephen Hurahan here at brandmasteracademy.com, and in this video you're going to learn 5 ways to build and grow brand salience and to measure success, so you can force your way to the top of the mind in the buying decision to make it easy for your audience to choose you over them. Now, brand salience is all about making your brand available in the mind of your target audience, specifically in the buying decision. By occupying pride of place in the audience's mind, you make sure that your brand is top of mind when the consumer chooses one product or one service over another. And I'll explain exactly what brand salience is, how it relates to other concepts such as brand awareness, brand recognition, and brand recall, and explore some ways for you to measure and grow brand salience within your market. But before we dig into the weeds, let's pull it back to the basics and answer the question, what is brand salience? Well, brand salience is the extent to which your brand is in the mix when the consumer is in that moment of making a purchasing decision. And it is that focus on that purchasing decision and the extent to which your brand is in the mix within that purchasing decision that differentiates brand salience from the likes of brand recognition, brand awareness, and brand recall. So let's have a look at the brand memorability model. Brand awareness refers to the consumer's familiarity with a particular brand name and its products or services. Brand recognition refers to the consumer's ability to recognize an identifying characteristic of one brand over its competitors. And brand recall is the measure of the likelihood of somebody remembering or recalling your brand, its products or services, either independently or with a nudge in the right direction. Brand salience is therefore the next level of brand memorability, and it answers the question, how likely is the consumer to remember or notice the brand at the point of the buying decision? High brand salience results from a strong brand with high brand visibility, and it means your brand is more likely to be noticed or remembered within that buying decision. Its mental or physical availability is high in that all-important moment. In other words, consumers either remember the brand, which is mental availability, or see the brand, which is physical availability in that decision-making moment. We can also argue that any visceral cue, whether it be visual, verbal, or audible, including a jingle or a song, could constitute availability one way or another, either way contributing to brand salience. Google and Kleenex are examples of highly salient brands since the brand names have become nouns and have literally replaced the service and product they provide. We don't suggest that people search it anymore, we suggest they Google it. So low brand salience is the result of limited or ineffective promotion or messaging of the brand. In other words, either the brand is not telling prospects about what they do, or they're not doing it in a way that leads them to remembering that brand in the buying decision. With low brand salience, the customer may not be aware that your brand even exists. Ultimately, to be in with a chance of purchase, your brand needs to be salient within the buying decision. Developing a well-considered brand strategy with unique positioning and communication, then mobilizing the brand message with effective marketing tactics is the tried and tested path to high brand salience. So why is brand salience so important? Well, I don't need to complicate this. If the consumer doesn't remember or think about your brand when they consider a purchase, it's very difficult for your brand to grow and make an impact. The importance of that mental presence can't be overstated. Either your brand is recalled from memory or is made visible and available to discount the need for memory. Getting your brand into the consciousness of your audience's mind during the buying decision is often the difference between them choosing you or some other brand that made itself mentally or physically available. If you're not in the audience's mind at all during that critical moment, you need to think about why that's the case and how to take up some of that space. So how do we go about measuring brand salience? Well, tracking metrics is critical to any brand or marketing strategy so that you can identify the strengths and weaknesses of the communication that you're putting out there into the market. So when assessing brand salience, you want a clear picture of where your brand sits on the high to low spectrum. So how memorable is your brand? How well does the brand capture the attention of the customers? How do we create that buying decision environment time and again? Most brands measure brand salience through market research like surveys and focus groups. They'll ask respondents how they feel about the brand, what associations they have with the brand, and if they consider the brand when making a buying decision. Your survey or focus group sessions should include different visual cues of some of your distinctive assets to see if they generate any kind of emotional impact from the respondents. With cleverly structured questions, you can build a picture of your brand salience in relation to that of your competitors. So, what exactly drives brand salience? Well, to occupy space in your audience's mind as a brand, you must make a brand either memorable or noticeable. But that's easier said than done. What can you do to give your brand a better chance of occupying the mind of your audience in that critical moment? To understand how to increase brand salience, we need to delve deeper into what drives brand salience. Byron Sharp, professor of marketing, has identified two core drivers of brand salience: the quantity of memory structures and the quality of memory structures. The quantity of memory structures refers to the amount of cues you give the audience to remember your brand. The more memory structures a person has for a brand, the more likely the brand is salient in that buying decision. So, how many distinctive brand assets do you have to create memory hooks in the mind of the audience? The quality of memory structures refers to how well a person can recollect the cues they're given and how they attach them to the brand. It's all well and good that you have a logo and a tagline and a jingle, but if none of those are memorable, they aren't doing their job. The key point here is that we're exposed to brands over time, and through that brand exposure, our brain forms associations between the brand name, its logo, its product, and the entire brand experience. Brands that understand this and build positive associations through marketing campaigns and ongoing brand messaging are far more likely to be salient in that buying decision. This approach puts them well on their way to achieving brand salience, meaning the customer isn't just aware of the brand, but actually considers the brand in that moment of making a purchase. So, how do we go about increasing our brand salience? Well, the brand needs strategies to create longer-term memories that resonate with the audience. Those powerful memories give your brand a better chance of cropping up at the right time in the customer's mind. Now, we all know that emotion plays a significant role in both memory making and the buying decision itself. We've all heard the phrase that the customers buy based on emotions and justify with their logic later on. So you need to provide your audience with emotional reasons rather than logical reasons that your brand is a more relevant solution than a competitor when building brand salience. So let's dive deeper into tactics on how we can build that brand salience. Number one, tell emotional stories. Now, if you can build a brand on an emotional connection between the brand and its audience, you give yourself a better chance of retention. Smart brands use brand storytelling to engage their audience, communicate brand value, and gain customer loyalty. Stories evoke emotion more than facts or figures, so lure the audience in with a narrative that builds positive associations. This brand story may not even refer to your products or services. It's more about building that emotional connection between the brand and the consumer. You'll find positive storytelling increases the quality of memory structures that Professor Sharp identified, meaning that it's more powerful in creating that long-lasting resonance with your audience. Put simply, we're far more likely to remember brands that make an emotional connection with us over ones that don't. And the ones that do are more salient in that buying decision. Number two, be consistent. Most brand messages don't land on first sitting, they land over time through consistency. If you tell the same brand story through various channels, you strengthen that neural connection in the audience's mind. If you use the same visual and verbal assets over time, they become more familiar and lead back to those experiences. On the other hand, mixed messaging only confuses the audience. Whether it's a story that contradicts or confuses, or an asset that changes, inconsistency is a primitive red flag that consumers subconsciously pick up on. Conduct market research to understand what channels are most appropriate to making connections and staying top of mind with your audience. Test to see what works best to get your consistent message in front of your audience without oversaturating, harassing, or annoying your target audience. Brand consistency is branding 101. It leads to trust, and trust leads to salience. Number three, design the brand experience. So take the time to outline the steps a new customer goes through when interacting with your brand. If you outline the steps, you can craft every touch point to make every interaction meaningful. In this way, you design the entire brand experience to create a lasting impression on your customer. And I emphasize the word lasting here because it is an important factor. It's the long-term resonance of a brand experience that will lead to brand salience. Number 4, be bold. So try to take the road less traveled with your brand. Don't feel that you need to go out into the market and do what everybody else is doing or to mimic what's working for other brands. I know it might seem obvious, but think about this for a second. How salient will your brand be if the actions you're taking have been seen time and again from competing brands by your prospects? Instead, head in the other direction and ask yourself the question, is what we're doing worthy of being remembered in that buying decision? Create a bold, innovative, unique brand strategy that gives your brand the best chance of standing out in that purchasing decision. Number 5, be available. Know where your audience is when they're making those buying decisions. Will they be in a store? If so, what store or what type of store? Will they be on a certain platform, a certain website, or an online group? Will they be at an event? The more you know about where your audience goes and the closer those physical or digital venues are to the buying decision, the better decision you can make when increasing your availability. Building brand salience is much more precise than building brand awareness or brand recognition or brand recall. It's laser focused on the moment of that buying decision and whether a customer is going to consider your brand in that critical moment. Since so much of the purchasing decision is emotional, brands that are salient have taken points to build emotional connections with their customers. If not, they've made themselves available physically within that buying decision. Now, the emotional connection is the most powerful tool to ensure that your brand is in the mix and top of mind when the customer is making that buying decision. So take the time to make your brand memorable. Take the time to build connections and to build emotional connections at that and make your brand available mentally and physically within that buying decision. Now, if you want to dive deeper into brand strategy, then this video here will help you out. But before you click it, if you want to become a master of brand, make sure you hit the like and subscribe to get new videos just like this. Until next time, brand like a master, and I'll see you in the next video.